It started with a shout one that cut through the noise of a packed Arizona arena. Cameras caught LeBron James rising from his courtside seat, pointing toward the bench and yelling, "Come on, coach, he's worked too hard for this." In an instant, the arena fell silent. For a man who has spent 2 decades commanding the biggest stages in basketball, this wasn't about the NBA. It was about something far more personal, a father watching his son sit in silence. The world saw the clip within hours. Millions of views, endless reposts, and headlines that spread like wildfire. LeBron loses it over son's benching. On TikTok, fans slowed down the footage, zooming in on every gesture, every flash of emotion on his face. Some said it was pride, others called it ego. But behind that single outburst lay a deeper story, one that blurred the line between legacy and love. LeBron's face said everything words couldn't. Years of sacrifice, pressure, and expectation boiled over in one moment. His youngest son, Bryce James, had been benched again. Not injured, not punished, just overlooked. Arizona led by nearly 30 points, yet Bryce never heard his name called. For LeBron, a man who has built an empire on effort and excellence that felt like betrayal. What the world didn't see was the quiet before that storm. LeBron cheering, clapping, waiting patiently for his son's chance. Every substitution that passed by chipped away at that patience until something inside finally broke. When he stood and shouted, it wasn't just frustration. It was every parent's silent plea turned into sound. But this wasn't just a father's moment. It was a spark, one that would ignite a national debate about power, fairness, and the price of having James stitched on your jersey. Before that viral moment ever happened, Bryce James was already living under a microscope. At 6'5", with smooth mechanics and a calm demeanor, he was often described as the sharper shooter of the James brothers, the one who played with poise rather than power. Recruiters saw flashes of brilliance during his time at Sierra Canyon. Scouts noted his textbook form his court vision, and a quiet confidence that felt inherited. But for every compliment came the same label he could never escape: LeBron's son. From the moment Bryce laced up a pair of sneakers, comparisons became his constant shadow. Every made shot was LeBron's touch, every missed one proof that he wasn't the next king. While his older brother Bronny captured headlines at USC and drew national endorsement deals, Bryce was still finding his rhythm both as a player and as a young man, trying to define himself beyond a last name that carries global weight. The spotlight was supposed to be an honor, but it quickly became a burden. Every high school game drew more cameras than most college tournaments. Clips of him warming up would trend online. Even before his first college practice, fans were already dissecting his potential, debating whether he could ever live up to the dynasty he was born into. And yet, behind that buzz was a teenager trying to learn to grow to earn his minutes like everyone else. Inside Arizona's locker room, he wasn't the king's son. He was just another freshman fighting for a spot. But the world watching didn't care about patience or development. They wanted instant greatness, instant results, instant James. But expectations don't always guarantee opportunity, and Bryce was about to learn that the hardest lessons in basketball aren't taught on the court, but from the bench. It was supposed to be an easy win, a forgettable matchup against Utah Tech. Arizona was up by nearly 30 points, cruising toward victory. The perfect opportunity, everyone thought, for the younger James to finally step on the court. But as the minutes ticked away, Bryce remained glued to the bench towel in hand, eyes fixed on the floor. His teammates rotated in and out the crowd, cheering each substitution. Everyone but him. On the sidelines, LeBron was every bit the proud father, clapping, shouting encouragement, smiling through each play. Cameras loved it. For the first half, he was calm. By the second, that calm started to fade. Every missed chance to see Bryce check in chipped away at his composure. When the 2-minute mark hit and the bench was cleared for walk-ons, yet Bryce's number still wasn't called, the patience of a global icon finally snapped. "Come on, coach. He's worked too hard for this." LeBron's voice thundered across the arena, echoing through microphones and cameras that captured every syllable. Fans gasped, phones rose into the air, and in seconds, the moment went viral. By the time the buzzer sounded, the clip had already begun its digital wildfire. Hashtags like #TheNationFreeBryce and #TheyLetHimPlay started trending on X and TikTok. Sports pundits dissected the outburst from every angle. Some said LeBron was out of line, a superstar using his platform to pressure a college coach. Others defended him, saying any parent in his shoes would have done the same. Former players weighed in too. Kendrick Perkins tweeted, "You gotta earn your stripes in college hoops." Skip Bayless jabbed, "You don't tell LeBron no." But the real story wasn't anger. It was control. Who truly held the power, the father, the coach, or the game itself? In the middle of the storm stood a man who didn't flinch, Coach Tommy Lloyd. Calm, measured, and respected for his no-nonsense philosophy, Lloyd built Arizona into a powerhouse by sticking to one rule: you earn what you play. It didn't matter who you were, what your name was, or how many zeros your family's net worth carried. To him, every player started from the same line. When reporters cornered him after the Utah Tech game hoping for an apology or an explanation, Lloyd didn't give either. Instead, he offered a smile and a steady voice. LeBron's a passionate father. I respect that, he said, but Bryce will earn it like everyone else. It was the same message he had quietly repeated all season, only now the whole world was listening. Inside the locker room, players understood exactly what Lloyd meant. His practices were grueling, his expectations relentless. Minutes weren't gifted, they were won. And while Bryce had the last name that could fill arenas, Lloyd refused to let fame write his lineup. We're honoring LeBron's wish to treat Bryce like any other freshman, he said earlier that week. He's here to learn, develop, and earn. That quote, once seen as fair, now sounded like defiance. Fans debated whether Lloyd's firmness was admirable discipline or quiet rebellion. Some praised him for standing up to celebrity influence, calling him the rare coach who wouldn't fold under pressure. Others saw it differently, a power play to prove a point, even if it meant sidelining a kid who'd done nothing wrong. For Lloyd, it wasn't personal. For LeBron, it was. And somewhere in the middle, a freshman named Bryce was learning what happens when principle meets pride. Was it courage? Or stubbornness? Behind Arizona's polished image of discipline and teamwork, there's a quieter storm brewing, one that has little to do with basketball itself. From the moment Bryce James committed to the Wildcats, the program transformed overnight. Ticket sales surged by 23%. The team store couldn't restock Bryce's number fast enough. His jerseys sold out within 48 hours. ESPN cameras began showing up, not just for games, but for practices. Every drill, every scrimmage, every half-smile between father and son became headline material. Inside the athletic department, that kind of attention is both a blessing and a curse. To the marketing team, it's gold. To the coaching staff, it's gasoline on a slow-burning fire. We didn't expect this level of pressure, one anonymous assistant admitted. Every decision we make now feels like it's being judged by the entire internet. One missed substitution becomes a trending topic. The team's PR staff scrambled to manage the fallout from LeBron's outburst, monitoring social media, preparing statements, and coordinating interviews to keep the focus on the program, not the drama. But the truth was impossible to hide. The presence of a James had changed everything. Practices that used to feel like family now felt like a stage. Players whispered about playing time. Boosters whispered about brand potential. For Lloyd and his staff, every choice carried two weights: basketball integrity and public perception. Do you play the kid because he's earned it, or because the cameras are rolling? Do you protect your system, or protect the spotlight that keeps donors happy? And as the lights grew brighter, the silence around Bryce's role grew heavier. Each game he sat, each minute that passed, the tension crept closer to breaking point. But behind closed doors, the whispers grew louder. As the dust from the viral clips settled, new whispers began to spread through college basketball circles. Whispers that Bryce James might not play at all this season. Coach Tommy Lloyd had hinted that redshirting was a possibility, calling it an investment in Bryce's long-term development. On paper, it sounded reasonable. Sit the freshman, let him train, and bring him back stronger next year. But to the James family, that word redshirt sounded like exile. LeBron didn't move heaven and earth for his son to sit behind a clipboard. He'd chosen Arizona precisely because it wasn't supposed to be a waiting game. He'd met with the staff, discussed Bryce's path, and trusted that effort would translate to opportunity. Watching his son stay on the bench game after game, only to hear talk of an entire season off, felt like betrayal disguised as strategy. Insiders described growing tension between LeBron's camp and Arizona's athletic department. Calls were reportedly made quiet, professional, but pointed. Questions were asked about development plans, communication, and expectations. The staff, already walking on eggshells after the courtside outburst, now faced the impossible task of keeping the world's most famous father satisfied without compromising team principles. To some within the program, the redshirt idea was logical. To others, it was a ticking time bomb. A full season of silence would turn Bryce into a headline, not a player. And in today's era of transfer portals and instant fame, patience is a luxury few can afford, especially if your last name is James. The debate spilled into talk shows and comment sections alike. Was Arizona protecting Bryce's future or freezing it? And that's when the question no one wanted to ask surfaced. For Bryce James, every step onto a basketball court is a step into history he didn't choose. His name alone guarantees cameras, critics, and comparisons. But behind that name is a young man trying to answer a question no stat sheet can measure. Is he destined to follow his father's path or break free from it? LeBron James built an empire on dominance, consistency, and control. His legacy is carved in banners and broken records, but also in the invisible expectations passed down to his sons. Bronny James felt it first. At USC, every game was treated like an audition for the NBA's next chapter of royalty. Every miss was magnified, every success instantly linked to the King's DNA. Yet Bronny carved his own identity, humble, hardworking, and grounded despite the noise. He didn't try to become LeBron, he tried to become Bronny. Bryce's path, however, is lonelier. He's taller, quieter, more technical, a mirror that reflects the same greatness but refracted through uncertainty. He's not fighting to surpass his father, he's fighting to be seen without him. That's the paradox of being a James. The name that opens doors also locks you in a shadow. And then there's LeBron, a father torn between pride and protection. His roar from the stands wasn't just anger, it was fear. Fear that his son's talent might wither unseen, that the system might fail the same work ethic that built their name. But love can look a lot like pressure when it comes wrapped in legacy. For Bryce, liberation means finding his own pace, even if it means walking out of his father's spotlight. Because sometimes, the hardest battle isn't on the court, it's at home. The story isn't over, it's only shifting arenas. As Arizona prepares for its next matchup, every camera lens is trained not on the scoreboard, but on the bench. The question isn't whether the Wildcats will win, but whether Bryce James will finally step onto the court. Every minute he sits now feels heavier than the last. Each game without his debut fuels the speculation, is Bryce really part of Arizona's long-term plan, or just a name caught in a political tug-of-war? Whispers of a possible transfer are getting louder. Programs like USC, Ohio State, and Oregon, all former suitors, are reportedly keeping an eye on the situation. The NCAA transfer portal has turned college basketball into a marketplace of opportunity, and few names hold more value than James. If the tension between LeBron's camp and Arizona continues to simmer, a mid-season move would shock no one. Coach Lloyd, however, remains unshaken. When asked about the ongoing media storm, he simply said, "I coach the team, not the headlines." It was the kind of calm defiance that has defined his career, a reminder that integrity often means standing firm in uncomfortable places. Still, even Lloyd knows that the presence of a global icon in the stands can warp reality faster than any playbook. LeBron, meanwhile, faces a different kind of choice. Does he keep fighting to protect his son's path, or trust that the struggle itself will shape him? For a man who has conquered everything the game could offer, letting go might be his toughest test yet. And as the lights dim and the cameras linger, one truth hangs in the air. The king believes his prince is ready, but the kingdom might not be. What do you think? Did the coach do the right thing? Or did he bench a future star?